Hello and welcome to another session at VentureBeat's Transform 2020. I'm Seth Colliner. I'm the editorial director for VentureBeat, and I'm here today with Kurt Mumel, who's the chief customer officer at Dataiku. And we're here to talk about how Dataiku is helping organizations put their data to work in building human-centric AI models. And we're going to look from starting with their data all the way to applied AI in business applications. So Kurt, thank you so much for joining us today. And I wonder if you could start us off just by saying a little bit about what Dataiku does and what is your role there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Seth. It's really great to be here. So appreciate the opportunity to share this story. So Dataiku, we're software developers. We're a software company, and over the better part of the last 10 years, I guess what is it, 7 or 8 years now, we've developed a platform that enables organizations, most frequently at the enterprise scale, to really build out an internal capability to develop AI products, services, and to integrate those into all of their business processes and systems. And the way that we do that is we've taken a very broad and very inclusive approach to that, saying that the right way to do this at scale is all about bringing more people in, bringing in not only the data scientists, the machine learning engineers, of course, they're heavily present within our user base, but also the business analysts, the marketers, the shop floor technicians, both as consumers of those results, but importantly as creators and true participants in the AI development process, as well as its deployment, maintenance, update process as well. And so at Dataiku, I'm the chief customer officer, as you mentioned, and what that means is I'm responsible ultimately for the, let's say, care and well-being of our customer base. So I oversee our customer success teams, but also our professional services teams, our advisory teams, the teams that run our online learning and engagement platforms, all of that.
Very good. And I wonder if you could just give us a really brief overview of just the whole process that you guys do of starting with data and building out and scaling and beyond. I think you have a specific example of a customer to share.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've got that on one slide, just to illustrate what one of our larger customers has accomplished over the years. And so what we see on the slide is that is a global pharmaceutical company, and really they started the better part of a decade ago working on this. And in fact, I've started the timeline in 2012, prior to the creation of Dataiku. In fact, so this is kind of the context that we were born into. And what they did was, well, frankly, they just got started. And what they did was they started going around looking for what data was available, what teams needed from that data, and started stitching that together. The person that we ultimately started working with, he was telling me stories about how a lot of his work was just sitting in an airplane, flying from one office to another, from New York to Paris to Tokyo, to understand what data was sitting in which data warehouse, what the needs were, comparing that to the skills available perhaps back in the headquarters in New York, so that they could actually build out a new capability. And so it was really all about getting started at whatever scale with whatever means they had available. Once Dataiku came into the picture, was really all about unsiloing, right? Breaking down barriers both between the data, but especially between the people and the teams, so that it was no longer just the few data scientists that they had within the organization building out these new capabilities, but they went very broad. They brought in all sorts of different team members to work directly on the data. Now, sometimes that unsiloing, it was beautiful tango. People were working great together. Other times it was maybe a little bit more of a wrestling match as they were working on it. But what we saw, right, was more data coming together, more people coming together to work on these challenges. If we go to where we are today in 2020, and of course this is a very abbreviated version of the story, they've really achieved this incredible scale. They're talking about 3,000 different projects that they have running in parallel, hundreds of thousands of data sets that they're working on, and hundreds and hundreds, nearing 1,000 individuals directly contributing to that process. And these are not just data consumers. It's not just a BI dashboard that people are looking at. These are people with their hands down in the data, using the tools that are best suited for them. So, the folks who are comfortable in SQL are writing SQL. The folks who are comfortable in Python, who are comfortable in R, who are comfortable in Scala, they're in their programming as well. Whereas there's others who are using the visual interface, who are clicking their way through the process to get to new insights. And of course, looking forward, what we see is, for some uncertain future, some future date yet to be defined. We see that ultimately the goal is to get everything embedded, to embed the analytics, to embed the AI processes directly into the applications, into the dashboards throughout the organization. And you can see, right, that we attempted to illustrate it, right, that the data environments have scaled out. The cloud environments have become all that more important. We're looking towards a future with multiple clouds as well. But importantly, right, with the right processes, with the right tooling, all of these different individuals, which maybe thousands and thousands in the future, they're shielded from that in effect, right? Where they're shielded from the underlying data. They have access to it, but they don't need to know necessarily where it's running. And so we're working with them now on this future, building that out with them, and it's frankly a really exciting and great privilege to be able to work with them on that.
Yeah, well, and I'm curious because it's and this you started in 2012, right? And if you,
Sure.
you scaled out beyond 2020, back in 2012, I think a lot of businesses, even really well informed people, didn't maybe know much about AI. Terms like computer vision or natural language processing were maybe new to them, and so they were still in the conceptual phase of understanding what are this new set of technologies. And my assumption is that most of your customers now are well past that, where they understand what these technologies are. They've made it through the skunk works. They probably have some prototypes. They may even have some things in production. Where are you seeing most of your customers at when they come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see them now, of course, at a different state than it was way back then, 2012, 2015. What we see today is indeed just what you described, where most organizations have done a POC, they've done pilots, they probably have a few things in production, but it's not at the scale that they need. And maybe they've succeeded once, twice, maybe 10 times. What we're talking about at scale, though, really is not 10 use cases deployed out into production, but maybe 10,000 use cases deployed out into production. And to get there, right, that requires one, meeting the customer where they are, and that's again core to our vision, right? That the Dataiku need not be either for those who are just starting out, nor those who are more advanced. Really about meeting organizations where they're at and taking them forward more quickly, across all the different dimensions that's going to require, making sure that the necessary architecture is in place to support that additional workload. But perhaps even more importantly, making sure that the people are enabled, that they're getting upskilled, and that they're finding ways to work together with their colleagues.
Sure. And so it sounds like scale is really the kind of the spot where a lot of them are at right now. I wonder what are some of the things that where some of these companies go wrong when they attempt to scale.
Well, sometimes what we see is that they try to predict the future. They try to predict the future. They try to lock into the one future technology that's going to get them there. And we've got a short a simple slide on that, right, where what you see basically is that it's impossible to predict what the future technology is going to be. Maybe back 6 or more years ago, all the rage was Hadoop. We're going to do on-premise Hadoop, and that'll be it. Well, of course, then we saw Spark coming up, the rise of cloud-based Hadoop, and now, especially in the last 2 years or so, the rise of Kubernetes as well. And so, without going into the technical weeds, what we want to illustrate, right, is just that it's extremely unpredictable, and it's going to continue to be so. And in a sense, that's good because it means that there's innovation that's going to continue and new and better technology that's going to come out. And so, what's important in that respect is that we ensure, or that the organizations ensure, that they're able to swap in and out those new technologies as reasonably as is possible for them. And that's again what Dataiku helps achieve is kind of an insulating layer between those individuals who are working on the project and the underlying compute layer as well. So yeah, we would definitely say, if you're trying to scale, it's not about picking the right technology. It's about building the right organization, which is going to be agile, which is going to be resilient, and which is going to be able to build this AI in a responsible way.
Yeah, and I'm a little curious. This is a bit of an non sequitur, but I'm a little curious. How many times, maybe just anecdotally, have you come across a customer who, in experimenting, they've developed some new technique or tool, and that's actually unlocked a new business idea. Right? Because I think the general accepted knowledge is start by solving your business problems. Right? Don't fall
For
in love
sure.
with the technology, kind of what you're saying. But also experimenting sort of unlocks new ideas. Do you have any thoughts on that or any good examples?
Yeah, absolutely right, and it's really core to what we see as the success. One of the ways that we've designed the product is so that you don't have to differentiate between like an ad hoc self-service use case versus a production use case, and we see very frequently that the kind of the ad hoc exploratory work often is the seed for what becomes a production use case later on, and being able to do that in a common platform where you don't need to re-engineer things, recode things. Move it from one logic, exploratory, experimental, almost scientific, over into another logic, engineering, hardened, very highly redundant. That really greatly increases the speed of the innovation within these organizations. So that's really what we like to see, and what we see frequently is that there is this exploratory work, maybe with an ad hoc team stood up just to work on a given problem, where you might take an individual from the business lines in one region, combine them with an advanced data scientist from the headquarters, as well as a data engineer from the team that's running the infrastructure. Get them, just jamming together on some new ideas, rapidly iterating, coming up with a workflow that looks to be right, maybe tweaking it then to optimize it for production, but not having to start over from scratch. And that's really exciting to see when it does come together.
Sure. A minute ago, you mentioned responsible AI, and I want to spend a little bit of time unpacking this a bit. Right off the bat, Dataiku bills itself as creating human-centered AI, and I know from past interactions, you mean explainability and being able to do away with the black box in a way that is more equitable for users. But we're at a pretty remarkable time right now. We've been talking about ethics and AI for years, but
Mhm.
we're in the midst of the most important civil rights change in 40 years, and all of the issues around ethics are of even greater importance. And some of the thinking that we have found on it as we're listening to scholars and researchers. Ruha Benjamin has a great quote from earlier this year in a talk she gave about deep learning, in which she said that computational depth without sociological depth is superficial learning. And I wonder if you could just speak to that a little bit, because I know it's a big priority. Responsibility and explainability are important for Dataiku. I just wonder if you can speak to where the company is thinking, especially right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredibly important topic for us. As it is for many people. It's important for us because I think that we do feel a great responsibility as tool builders in this initiative, in this field, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that the sort of harms that have been inflicted upon various populations over the years, that those not get re-encoded and perpetuated yet again now by automated artificial intelligence systems. Right, that's the outcome that we're frankly most concerned with when we're talking about scale and all these different use cases. On the one hand, you look at that and it's like, this is great, this is exciting, we've got all this potential for business value. That's great. But you can't say that there's going to be all this impact from all these use cases without acknowledging that there's a risk, at least, for negative impact, for harm to be caused from these use cases as well. And so, we've got a slide here that shows just some and frankly, it's depressing how easy it is to find the headlines that illustrate the issue. We've got one here from just a couple of weeks ago, June 24th, about an individual where it's one of the first confirmed cases where the individual is wrongly accused, was arrested based on faulty facial recognition technology, and this is a real concern for us. And so Dataiku's approach to this, right, is, well, one, we want to first raise awareness around the reality of this, and the speakers that we have at VentureBeat this year talking about this topic. I mean, they are exactly on point when they're raising this issue. So, one, raise the awareness, but also educate the builders to ensure that they understand what's going on, and then most importantly, perhaps, is that we need to broaden the scope of people who are participating in the creation of these capabilities. It's not enough that it be just a few people from the same universities with the same backgrounds who are producing this. We need to ensure that there's a broad, a diverse, and an inclusive base of people who are creating these new capabilities. In addition to that, right, there's also some technical solutions or parts of the solution. Those are things like explainability, to ensure that we don't have black box models that are impenetrable. They are glass box models that explain themselves, that tell us what's happening, so that we can then present those results to individuals who are going to be sensitive to that, and who can say, no, this is wrong. This is not having the results that we want. This is causing harm, or there's a risk of harm, so that we can solve for that. And so as we're building out for this scale, we at Dataiku, we feel a great responsibility to provide the builders with the tools to do this in an ethical and a responsible way. Quite frankly, we're happy to see this very very important, very necessary, I would say overdue, raising of social consciousness on these topics, and we want to make sure that we are equipping our customers with the means to do things in the right way. For the most part, when things go wrong, it's not because somebody is out looking to do harm. It's because they've got blind spots. They've not been educated properly on what to look out for, and so that's really key to where we see ourselves as having a positive impact in the future, which is something that we want to see.
Yeah, and you guys are positioned in kind of a unique way. A lot of times when we talk about these issues, we're looking at researchers who are building something, or looking at something like an ImageNet. There's some really strong research coming out right now that's looking at the inherent flaws that could be inside the data.
Sure.
But you guys are helping someone else make things, so you're sort of in the middle of that. Can you speak to the maybe a unique challenge there, where you're not necessarily building data, or you're taking first party data and working with it.
That's right.
You make models, and then it's their business application.
Yeah, that's right. It's not our data. In fact, built into the platform, it's not our algorithms. They're all open source algorithms that are built in, and it's not the application either. That all belongs to our customer. But still, we don't want to take a position to say that that we have no responsibility in any of this. We're just providing this amoral technology. We don't believe in that, right? We believe that the decisions that we're making in the way that we build the tool and in the way that we enable our users, train our users, does have an impact. I've used in the past an analogy of around, other potentially dangerous tools. Take, for example, I don't know, a power saw, right? Sure, you can build all sorts of useful things with it, but there is a responsibility of the tool maker to build it in a safe way, to put appropriate safeguards on it, to put appropriate training material and recommendations for its use, or requirements in its use, and potentially fail safes in it as well, so that even as you're using this powerful and potentially dangerous tool, you can do it in a way which is safe, and which is not going to cause harm. Because depending on you're building something out of wood in your garage, or you're building an AI application, there's great potential for that to build something which is valuable for yourself, for society as well. But there's really also a responsibility to do so in a safe way, and not inadvertently, and certainly not on purpose, cause harm to somebody else with that. And so again, that's what we see our role in is, one, building the capabilities into the tool, and making that from a user experience perspective hard to avoid, and then also equipping our customers with the training materials, the advisory services, to ensure that they're aware of what the risks are and how they can counter it. And then finally, and I think it's the most important point, we need more voices. We need more eyes on these projects as well. And so that's also where Dataiku, just as a technology, enables bringing in that broader, more diverse coalition of AI builders into the picture.
Great. Well, Kurt, thank you so much for your time today, and your insights and explaining what you guys are all about. And thank you for getting into the difficult topics with me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Seth. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about the difficult topics. Often they are the most important ones.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.